Milky Mist Paneer. Milky Mist Paneer.
Velamal feels proud to honor the physical education teachers with 5 cars and 15 lakhs.
Supreme Mobiles and Supreme Super Apple Days. Get instant discount up to 15,000 on iPhone.
Hello everyone, welcome to Galatta Plus, and thank you for Dabba Cartel showing me 3 episodes, because I'm always like, why don't you guys show me the whole thing? So, I kind of wonder. But tell me first, why are crime shows so insanely popular, and in that genre, why is the subgenre of the drug-based crime show so popular?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any answer to that really. But I think human beings in general are fascinated by people who lead a certain life that they
Don't live.
Or so far removed away from their reality that it's just so fantastical, that it's escapism at the end of the day. So I see it more as escapism than I see glorifying or glamour of it. I see it more as escapism. And it's that classic thing, it's like if you go, like my dad says this too, has told me this once. He's like, people, when you go to the zoo, you don't want to go and see the monkey, and you don't want to see the deer, and you don't want to see the birds. You want to go see the wildcats. Your fascination is for danger.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So it's like you're always fascinated by danger, something that could kill you. That fascinates you, like you're in awe of that. So I think that psychology on some level filters into why we are so obsessed with the dark side of human beings.
There's also a certain sense of thrill element that allows for greater storytelling. So you take people on a ride that they're not really aware of, which is new and fresh for them. And I think to answer your question about why drugs, I think with cartel stories that are told around the world, they're very specific to the kind of landscape and world that they're told in. And you find the little quirks and interesting things that make it, like this story is very specific to India with the Dabba business, and
I would say
very
even
specific
Bombay,
to even Thane.
Thane.
So you can't take this story and place it in Mexico. So, it just becomes the exploration of a completely different setting.
Yeah. Farhan, with the example of a couple of your films, I would like to see if we can explore the idea of what is a movie idea and what is a series idea. Let's take Dil Chahta Hai and let's take Laksh. Which one of these do you think is a self-contained movie, and which one of these do you think is adaptable as a series?
I don't know. If at all, I think probably Laksh. I don't think Dil Chahta is. I think Laksh is, because Laksh could be some kind of a limited series, if you want to call it that. That appears in seasons and talks about different characters who've been involved in some absolutely incredible feats of heroism. India has a history of, when it comes to our armed forces especially. So I think that could allow for it. But slice of life and the kind of story that Dil Chahta Hai was, or like a Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara was, it's difficult to move it beyond a certain point.
Okay.
I feel. Of course there are writers who may be able to do it wonderfully well. But I would see Laksh, because Laksh is more plot driven. Right. Which makes it more friendly for series.
So that's the key, you feel, that something's more plot driven than
I think
incident or like a...
Yeah, I think the plot is really important, because you're expecting now as a viewer something very dramatic to happen at the end of each episode.
Right.
You're expecting that. When that doesn't happen, you feel a bit disappointed.
Yeah.
When it doesn't happen. So for that, plot is really, really crucial. It can't just end on a person while looking out of the window and feeling philosophical. You'll be like, okay, now where is this going from here?
Yeah.
So I think that helps.
I thought you'd say the exact opposite, because slice of life would be extendable with some dramatic thing happening at everything, whereas Laksh is the story of a boy becoming a man.
Yeah.
And so that's literally something that you want to condense into a... but I see what you're saying.
No, I didn't specifically mean the films per se.
Yeah, but
I mean the genre more than anything.
Yeah. Shibani, you're one of the co-creators of the show. You're the creator, and there's when I saw the opening credits, you're listed as a creator, and there's also writers, a couple of people listed as light writers.
Vishnu Menon and Bhavna Kher.
Right. So what does a creator do, and what does a writer do?
That's a very good question. No. So I'm not a writer. But I think for the process of kind of putting the show together in terms of developing the characters, figuring out what the plot would be, the main plot, the subplot, and kind of working towards the trajectory of the season, the characters. I was part of the writer's room, so I didn't physically write, but it was an idea that was taken to the writers. Vishnu Menon is also a creator on the show, and you know, there's a process that we had where we kind of really fleshed out each character, and we knew where we wanted the season to go. But then it was really the writers who spent an extensive amount of time really breathing more life into it and adding, you know, all the little bits and pieces that make the story what you see today. Post the writing, I think it was more about kind of making this vision come to life.
Okay.
I'm very new at this. This is my first project. I don't know anything about it, if I'm being brutally honest. So the whole thing was a learning experience for me. And I was lucky enough to be able to absorb as much as I could from different departments. I was very lucky to work so closely with Hitesh and Abbas, who honestly taught me so much. Because, I mean, there's times, you know, when you're working on something and behind the scenes, they go into a very autopilot way of kind of speaking about the making of the show because they're so used to it. You're so used to the process. They would often stop and explain how things work and what this means and how you do this. Or I would go home and I would ask Farhan, Hitesh and Abbas were talking about this today. I didn't know what it meant. Can you explain it to me? So I felt like I was in. It was like doing a course at NYU, and I think it was the best place for me to kind of learn how to make a show. But I was also lucky enough to be able to be a part of the process. I don't know if that's the norm or not, but it was a great experience for me.
So would you say the creator is more at an ideation level and the writing is more at an execution level?
I would say yes, but also the creator is part of the execution in a sense, right? Because even though you're not even though I'm not physically sitting with them and writing, that's what they do.
Yeah.
After it's written, you know, before Hitesh comes on board, or even when he comes on board and he's kind of, you know, discussing what are the thoughts, what are the ideas, and then it's really the director that kind of takes over from there.
Right.
You know, then it's his vision. But again, like I'm saying, I was lucky enough to be able to be involved, even in the other parts of the process.
Yeah. So just to one more little dig into this.
It's confusing,
like,
I know, because even I was trying to find my way.
Right.
You know, because you need to know where you should be, where you shouldn't be. You kind of, there's an idea that's seeded, you want to see it grow, you want to see it come to life. And there's so many different people that contribute to it, but after a point you kind of have to let the director do what he needs to do.
Yeah.
But you also want to be there to kind of also be able to give your input if, you know.
I think one of the main key things where Shibani comes in the picture, and you know, as a creator or something, as a director, you will come and you will have your own vision, you'll have your questions, but eventually you will always be looking at her because it's her baby, you know, it's her thought. For the first time ever, out of thin air, she thought of an idea that, okay, what if there are 5 women who do this, you know? So then the core ideas are coming, you know, the show's genesis is coming from her. So whenever you are thinking of a plot, whenever you're thinking of a scene, whenever you're thinking, so she becomes our touch point, you know, our touchstone that, okay, let's ask Shibani, you know, what does she think? Because she has lived with this idea longer than any of us, you know.
How many years?
4 years. But I will also say this, it's so strange to answer this question because along the way there are so many people that give it life, like Nakos Thane happened because of somebody. And now that's taken a life of its own. There's, you know, the beautiful relationships that have jumped off page and that have been brought to life by Hitesh. It's just so hard to say, oh yes, I am the creator of the show, and because it doesn't work like that.
I know. The thing is, but the thing is, you know, like in the films, you know, like a cinematographer takes a shot and you think you attribute it to the cinematographer's thing, but it may have been the director
100%.
saying that's where I want the camera. So but the thing is, because OTT is still a new space for us, I'm just trying to understand what this person does and what that person does. So for example, just like for example, there's this very interesting subplot, or rather like a, I don't know if I'd call it a subplot, but what a, just for, let's call it a subplot about wanting to go to Germany, right? Now that's a kind of an aspirational thing that runs through. Now, is that something that the creator brings in or the writer brings in? It's like a...
So again, that's something that we discussed at a macro
Macro level.
right? We discussed it at a macro level. Now the details, the nuances of that would have happened when they were physically writing. But there was a lot of work that happened in the writer's room. There were also a lot of changes that happened when Hitesh came on board. In fact, when he first came on board, when we had 10 episodes and it was much more of a slow burn. And he came and he said, start it off here. And we did. We changed the entire season. So there's always a fresh perspective and a different outlook that somebody has that adds value. As far as the formula is concerned, I think this new way of working on platform where you have creator, director, writer all working together, I think it's a fairly new one to navigate because everyone has valuable input.
Right.
But everyone also has a certain level of respect for each person's job. And you have to know when to be able to kind of step forward and when to be able to step back. And that's not necessarily something that you figure out on day one. It's probably something that I figured out in the second or third year. It wasn't easy for me either because you kind of just want to be like, no, but the minute you start understanding that we're kind of all working together and lucky for us, actually, I think the good thing that we had is that we all had the same vision for the show.
Yeah.
So we were already in a better position when we started. So there was no real, I want to take the show into this place and I want to take the show into that place. So that was a huge head start.
The other thing that is that every piece of work has its own logic. You know what I mean? Like a certain logic in a certain film, anything can happen. You then accept the fact that anything can happen within this piece of work.
Yeah.
There is a certain logic which there's a justification for the story to move forward in a certain way, and then randomly something happens, you'll question that, right? Because it's not a part of this logic of this piece of work. So like the Germany example, is, I remember so clearly, was also on some level with working, why would a girl like Raji get involved in something like this, right? It has to be something that is such a domestic thing with a husband and her, which is about basic, like a middle class ambition to get a better life somewhere, which is balancing with what she is going through in her personal life and how can she, in her own way, make sure that both can happen.
Right.
So those are that's when you kind of get more into like logic and stuff.
So let's talk about directing actors. When you did Sharmaji Namkeen, one of the things that you said was, it was a little scary to direct Rishi Kapoor because, you'd heard from Juhi Chawla that bahut daan padenge. So when, you're directing his contemporary Shabana Azmi here, and she's probably been scared, I don't know, because she has this enormous reputation of, great performances and things like that. What is the advice that you'd give for a relatively newer filmmaker to direct or conquer their fear of directing established stars / actors? I
don't think fear is the right word.
Yeah.
As in, I don't really associate myself with that fear of directing an actor. I think it's, I don't know what is the word. Like, even with Rishi Kapoor, it was the sheer personality, that had been told by so many people. But in order to direct him, I had to have that equation with him, which eventually I found. Where, he's standing there and I'm standing here and we are shouting at each other and we are fighting in front of 100 people. But there is no disrespect and it's all love.
That's how you did it.
Okay. Amazing, great things happen. Joey used to call us Tom and Jerry eventually. And the same thing happened with Shabana Azmi, So she has been working for 50 years. One day she celebrated 50 years of her working in the industry on our set. So, and I'm not even 50 years old.
Ankur was 74?
Yeah, so it was incredible, and she has worked with Steven Spielberg, Satyajit Ray, Shyam Benegal, so one is coming from there, and then she prepares so heavily. So I think it wasn't fear, it was more of that you have to bring your A game to the table. You can't be lazy about things. You can't be lazy about the smallest of the things with her.
Right.
Because otherwise she will not trust you, or she will get uncomfortable, कि अरे यार तुम्हें ये नहीं पता है या वो नहीं पता है, and she will get into the smallest of the details.
Right.
So what happens is that it just elevates your own way of working. So that becomes, a great experience, that you're not really fearful. And then, to be very honest, she just made everyone very comfortable. on first day only, because I was also like, okay this, okay that, how to approach her, but she just put everyone at ease, not just me, everyone. She came for a photo shoot, it was still photo shoot and all that, and the way she was interacting with everyone, and I think it was a little deliberate, so that people don't feel कि अरे शबाना आज़मी है set पर आ गई हैं, थोड़ा ऐसे बैठो वैसे बात करो. She is very particular about what she does, but once you say cut, she's just sitting over there cracking a joke, rehearsing a line. She will just make everyone very comfortable. So I think that also was a great quality that she has.
Right.
Yeah.
Farhan, in the film ecosystem, despite the success of films like Crew, it's generally considered a fact that it's difficult to get money to put together a female-oriented film. I mean, I don't know how true it is anymore.
Asking the wrong guy.
No, but you're a producer. So, but is the OTT free of that kind of, it's agnostic, gender agnostic, it doesn't care who the protagonists are. Is that an easier space to navigate?
I mean, of course, the thing is that you can deep dive more into a story because you have 8 hours as vis-a-vis 2.5 now, to share something with people. But no, I genuinely believe, and I always have, that if a story is well put together and well told, and if you manage to create connection with the lead character, like as a viewer connection, like a human connection with them, I don't think it'll matter, in the long run. I mean, of course, you know this well enough that there is, and we've always had this, it's not a new phenomenon. I mean, I hear stories from people that I grew up listening to, talking about an industry in a very different time. But the herd mentality always existed. One kind of film did well and then everybody else wanted to make the same kind of movie till something else came along. And we are seeing that change now. We are seeing a lot more films now, which have strong female protagonists, have women at the center, which we weren't seeing maybe 15, 16 years ago. And maybe that is a bit of a side effect of what's happening on the streaming space, where people are saying they're watching it on streaming and they're like, this feels really good, so why don't I go to a theatre and watch it? Maybe that's happening as well. But the fact of the matter is that eventually stories will be told for everyone and about everyone. So I mean, that's a healthy sign of things to come.
Right. A question for both of you. Many couples like to keep their personal and professional space apart. When something like this happens, where you're working together on something and also going home, how easy or difficult is it?
Yeah, go on, Shibani.
That's her forte.
I will be brutally honest, it was very difficult for me to create those boundaries. It was difficult primarily because it was so new for me. And also because there were just so many emotions all the time that I didn't know a lot of the time what to do with them or how to feel about certain things. And I feel like I'm going home to my husband and telling him things, but ultimately I'm going home to the producer, director of Excel and telling him things. And that became very difficult for me to censor. And I think it became very difficult for him to separate husband from producer, because even if I'm telling you things as my husband, I'm still telling the producer of Excel. I'm hoping on the next show it will be easier for me to create those boundaries, but I don't think I've really hidden my emotion from anybody, whether it be Hitesh, Abbas, or Qasim, director, producers. I've been very honest about how I feel, and they're not always streamlined feelings. I'm not always saying things and feeling things that are super professional. It's just emotion, right? You're creating we're all like birthing this child together. So there will be times where it's just like frustrating and you don't know what to do. And so I've tried to be as honest as possible. But I think that there is a lot for me to learn in terms of separating the passion and emotion from just my relationship and the show making process, because sometimes it becomes all a bit jumbled, and I don't think anyone really wants to go home at the end of the day and then talk about work for 6 hours. And half the time he's not really talking, he's just listening, and I'm just ranting and raving. And so that I think will get better, I think, with time. And I think hopefully for him it will he'll be able to understand that I'm kind of telling him as my husband and not necessarily as XL. It becomes very difficult because you can't go home and just, if you ask me how my day was, I'm telling you how my day was, you know, so it's very difficult to not answer that question.
Yeah. What about?
No, to be honest, I mean, you know, I've seen her go through this the process over the last now 4.5 years almost. And in any endeavor like this, and we've all been through it, you know, I mean, you have these moments of doubt, you have moments of friction with someone that you're working with, you have moments of excitement where you want to just come back and share something. So I completely get that. And I mean, for me, it was, I absolutely wanted to be there, you know, for her to
Vent.
For her to vent or to say whatever she wanted to say. And I would, honestly, I would think back to when I started here, you know, and I mean, it takes, with experience, you start realizing maybe how you can like deal with things a little bit more differently. But I used to also just completely like, you know, if something triggered me in some kind of way, I would also just completely fly off the handle and like want to make a big, you know, like a big like display of how I was feeling. And that's kind of what I was seeing that was happening with her. And
It's more a frustration because you're so new and you don't know,
Yeah.
right? Everybody else knows what they're doing. Hitesh knew what he was doing, you know, the actors, Abbas, everybody knows what they're doing. And so when you're learning, it's almost this like frustration of you're sometimes not getting the hang of it or sometimes not being able to control how you feel. I never saw Hitesh have a meltdown once. Maybe he did at home, but he didn't have a meltdown. I had many meltdowns. So I think it's just a learning curve.
Right. If I may just add to this, because you know I've worked so closely with both of them, and you know this personal equation and professional, I think we have had our share of, you know, differences, and which is part and parcel of what we do. It is, I find it unhealthy if you are just always gelling and there is no this thing and all that. But and you tend to forget that, you know, who you're working with. And Excel is always, you know, has been my home ground with Sharma ji. Even on Sharma, the first film, Ritesh and I had, you know, sort of point of differences on creative. And I kept on, you know, with a certain point of view, and Ritesh kept on respecting that, ki, you do it your way, I'll do it my way, and then we'll see. The same thing happened here. So many times we had our this thing and all that, but I think both Farhan and Shibani were extremely gracious about it. Never even for one moment I was, you know, I felt that I could not say this or I could not do this, because you are not always watching your words. You are very passionately doing, and in moments of passion you will say something, "Arey yaar, I don't agree with this," or "Main kya karoon," or "I want to do it like this," and you're not understanding. You know, but it could be dealt in a very different manner also, that you do it like this and all that. But I think they were extremely gracious about it. So which is a great thing to have.
You also don't want to be that. You also don't want to be the person who's looked at as the wife of, you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't that. So you don't want your passion to be mistaken for some sort of like something else.
Like a controlling thing.
Yeah, because it wasn't like that. I mean, genuinely, it was my opportunity to learn. I would be right, I would be wrong. It was just healthy.
Yeah.
It was just,
Yeah, but unless you have that security and that grace, you can't do it. I think
that's
collectively,
a good word, grace. Yeah, that's
you
a
know,
nice
there is
word.
that I've told Farhan in a separate incident also. But see, unless you are that person, you can't offer that to another person. So that is something that I've learned from him, that how to deal with my crew members, or if I am in certain situation like this, collectively put together, I think both of them have visited the set 3 times. Twice, 4 times. So nobody ever came, you know, so they're not there. It's not that, you know, they're there, acha kaisa ho raha hai, short, ya kya ho raha hai, why not this, why not that. It's absolutely, they're just not there. They've given you complete full freedom to do whatever you want to do. So which is a great quality. You always hear those stories, you know, in Bollywood, ki arey producer aapko bata raha hai how to do this and all that. And you have all heard those stories. It was the same on Sharma ji. It is the same here. So I think that really then gives you that freedom, and also gives you that responsibility that, okay, you have to, you know, do it in a certain way.
So Hitesh, one of my favorite shots in the 3 episodes that I've seen so far is that
someone give him the other 4, please. Someone.
It's you close in on this cover of this book and this delicious title, Zairili Chaya. And then, you know, it's like you tilt up and it's Shabana been reading that book. I mean, just that was like, just sent me to a tizzy. It was just such a, you know, something that you don't expect. But in general, and that's when, the door opens and,
Yeah.
something else. So are there any considerations about setting up and directing, being a director? That is, I'm talking about like staging, certain things that you have to consider when something is a movie versus something is a TV show. In terms of the frame that you said, in terms of what you want to show, is there something different?
Maybe in certain situations, maybe, because on a day-to-day basis, constantly one is really not thinking that whether you're making a TV show or a movie, you're just going with what the story demands
And
or a particular
how to execute that scene. Yeah,
mise-en-scene should happen. So I don't think that one is thinking about that. Maybe if the story demands, and if it is a movie and it's a theater experience and it is an action thing or a cinematic thing, then you will put in those extra resources and make it larger than life. Otherwise, I don't think that those were the choices that I was making consciously, that okay, it's a series, so do it like this or do it like that. Not really. No.
Okay, because there was one director that I was speaking to, and they said that even though ultimately everything lands up on streaming, and even if it's the biggest of big screen movies, they said that one of the conscious choices they had to make while doing an OTT show was they went in for more mids and close-ups, because they wanted to be conscious that people may be watching it even for the first time on the phone. So I was wondering if there was something like...
Not in my case.
Not in your case?
Not in case. No one told me so. I did not think about it like that. Fortunately, that is not how instinctively I approach material, that people are going to consume it on phone, so let me go mids and closes, because that will derail my process. I'm looking at it as a scene that, okay, this scene should happen like this. So if that requires a certain scale and you're eventually going to watch it on a small screen, so be it. So be it. But it has to cater to the story.
Sorry, So there's essentially no difference.
Not in my head.
Yeah. As a critic, as someone who writes about films, or sometimes, or somebody who does these videos, every time there's something that comes up, you find that every week has just so much that's out there. Earlier, it used to be easier to catch up with all the releases, even if you're not going to review them. But now it's like every language, everything, there's streaming, there's so much of interesting stuff out there. And then today, TCM just dropped a Martin Scorsese interview where he's talking about the older films that he loves, and why people should watch older films, and you want to watch that, and then something is there, and it's just gets sometimes, and you just end up watching reels because your mind is not able to make up what it is that you want right now. So when you are producing something, or when you are directing something, or when you choose to act in something, how do you try and ensure, of course there's no sure way of telling this, but how do you try and ensure that this could be a potential clutter breaker, something that will make people say, I know there's a dozen things out there, but this is what I want to watch right now?
I think to start with, you have to probably believe and understand, and which would be the truth, is that there are many people interested in the films that you are interested in, or in the shows that you are interested in. Films that you have watched, that you have loved, and many other people have loved too, or maybe something that you didn't like and many other people have also, of your similar taste, haven't. So that if something appeals to you and if something feels right about it, I think there is a basic understanding that you have that there is at least some kind of an audience for it out there. That's the only starting point that you really, really have. But I feel the more you get into the making of something, when you're working with the crew and your cast on set, when it comes to the edit, when it comes to the background score, whatever else, but the more final that the piece of work starts getting, I think that's when you realize more and more and more that if what you imagined for this film is actually happening, is it getting better than what you had imagined, or has it actually gone into a completely different direction? And every single person I can say who I know, and I've had any kind of conversations about how they felt about a film when they heard it or read it, and by the time it was made, more or less feels the same kind of way. You get an understanding, that maybe this one didn't go the way you wanted it to go. Obviously you'll never say it publicly because you want that film to have a chance, or the show to have a chance, or whatever it may be. You want that. But somewhere inside you know. And similarly, you also know when it's gone well, where there's something special that's happened in this film, and more often than not, you're proved correct. With the fate of that piece of work. It's very rare that it's gone the other way when that happens. But I think most artists know that this one they've got right, and maybe this one not quite so much.
So you start with a gut instinct.
There's nothing else.
Okay.
There really isn't anything else. I mean, unless you're the kind of person who really wants to work with that director or really wants to share screen with that actor.
Yeah.
There are different reasons, and there's no judgment here, of course.
Yeah.
Everybody's entitled to take a film on for whatever they want. But that's all you have, is do I like it? Like, do I really, really like it?
Do I want to watch it? Yeah.
Do I want to watch it? Do I want to wake up every morning at like 5 o'clock and go and report to work for this? Because it may sound exciting now, but a week down the line, if I don't like it, I'm going to be stuck with like 3 months or 4 months of having to wake up to something that's not enjoyable at all.
Yeah.
So those are things that do come into. So you have to really love what you're going to get into. Again, for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
Like I said, you want to really work with a director. That's what you're loving. So it could also just be that, but more often than not, you have to feel the script.
Yeah.
Look, I think we're just consuming content at like a rapid speed at the moment, and I think there's so much focus on what people want to see and what they're watching and making things pacey so that they don't get bored. But I think it's really important, I think as storytellers, to really understand what it is that you want to say and how you want to tell a story. At the risk of, just kind of compromising on your own kind of standards and what it is that you believe in. I don't know if you can necessarily just make things for other people. I mean, of course you do, but I'm saying not at the cost of what it is that is in your heart to kind of make. And I think if you start there, and like Farhan said, it's about gut, it's about instinct, it's about what feeds you and what excites you and what it is that you want to do. And I feel like if you are excited and passionate about that, then I don't think that you can really go wrong.
Right. So I was just having a conversation outside, and this person was talking about watching series on 1.5x because they wanted to,
Get through it faster.
I've heard.
And you've heard of this before.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, you've probably done it for certain series,
I
even if
have
you don't
not,
want to admit.
done
I don't
it.
know.
No, the way I watch things is just criminal.
But does that get into you when you think you put in your blood, sweat, tears, all that stuff, and then somebody's going to race through it in a manner that you did not quite expect it to be consumed because you've set up a particular thing to be like to showcase something and be done at a certain pace, because while you were shooting you were saying give a pause here, do this, say this way, then move there, but all that is like happening like that. That's
Personally, it doesn't bother me at all.
It's out of your control, but
And it doesn't bother me at all. I'm not that person who will ever watch content like that, but then that's I'm a different person. I'm too passionate about it. The lighting has to be perfect, sound system, phones have to be silent. You can't be ordering Zomato, things can't happen in between. That is a constant fight between me and my wife, because then it's 2 hours of this thing. Don't order in between because, But then that's me. We make content, we are passionate about it.
Yeah.
This is what we do. A person working in a bank might not be so passionate, so he wants to watch it on 2x, be my guest, I personally don't think that the films or the series are the most important thing in the world, that, they might be interested in something else.
Yeah.
Something else might, catch that attention for them. So if they want to watch it like that, it's up to them.
Yeah.
I don't know how that can be enjoyable.
But it's very
I
telling
don't
of where
know.
we're
People
at.
are not. I have heard now people are not looking at the screen also. But they're listening to the audio.
Second screen viewing.
Like-
यहाँ चल रहा है.
I know somebody that works and as a distraction keeps playing things. So when something suddenly happens, they're just like, oh, nice. Like, oh, nice, that happens.
I've seen people.
But then
It's like background music.
But then,
That's also
but
very
that's not
telling
viewing.
of where we are
But
as
that's
a
not
society.
that's not view. That's not a viewer. That's
But
not.
that's a consumer. See, Netflix is going to get a
Yeah.
certain amount of watch time from that, right? So
no, but we are not discussing that.
Yeah, we're not yet. Let's not
what
get
we're
it. That's a
dis-
black hole. Let's not
That's
go
not
there.
what we're
Yeah,
discussing. We're
So-
discussing
maybe
the
that-
experience.
Yeah.
But maybe that's also very telling of where we are as a society, because this thing of like just everything being quick in 3 seconds.
And also wanting to multitask, like wanting to,
multitask, the
so-
attention that we have to kind of focus on things. That has changed over
Yeah.
time.
No, because, like at the risk of aging myself, carbonating myself, there was a time when we used to listen to songs. It's just songs. Like you used to sit or like while going to sleep
Yeah,
or
of
something,
course.
or go to the terrace and, just listen to songs. But now you listen to songs while you're driving or while you're loading the washing machine or something like
Yeah.
doing something else.
On the treadmill, though.
yeah, or
Yeah.
something, so that it becomes background music rather than. So which is why I remember a lot of the lyrics of the songs that I heard when I was younger, but now I don't remember that many. I mean, a register maybe, but it's more like a whiz.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, it's a different.
Yeah, I was actually sitting with my girlfriends the other day, and one of them was watching her kids play basketball online because you can now connect to your school, right? And we were all sitting around and talking, and she said, "Should we play some music?" That's like 3 things at one time. So that's where we are right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's very hard for us to slow down.
Yeah, I know. I think it's got a little too existential. So let's end on a slightly on a cheery note. So let's so what is it that you want to tell people about Dabba Cartel?
Oh, let the director.
Direct.
do it.
No, let Shibani
no,
say it.
Hitesh, you have
No,
to do
no,
it.
no,
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 Hitesh,
please.
no.
Hitesh,
no.
you must.
Arey, please.
Come on.
Please.
Is this like some game that?
No, it is not a game. No, it is not a game.
He doesn't like piece to camera. type
I get
situations.
confused.
Basically, he
I'm
wants me to-
constructing it in my head and then I don't know what to say after 2.
I'm just asking you to sell your show.
My show, shit.
Come on, you can do it.
Oh my God, this is like.
Don't be sad.
Listen, it's a
Shibani will go first.
It's
you can
it's
do
a
this.
really fun show about women from a housing society in Thane who are put into a very interesting situation, and we see how they work their way through it. It's a crime drama. It has Shabana Azmi, Gajraj Rao, Jyotika Nimisha Sajayan, Shalini Pandey, Anjali Anand, and some other wonderful cast members. It's directed by Hitesh Bhatia. It's out on Netflix on the 28th of February. Please go watch it. It's our labor of love. And we've put so much into it, and we hope that you really, really enjoy it. Tell her now you do.
We all are intelligent enough to know that you are intelligent enough to make the right decision. That's all I can say.
Now, Hitesh, say something in Hindi.
हमें बहुत मज़े आए शो बनाते हुए, बहुत अच्छी कास्ट है, बहुत सारे मज़े आए. आई होप कि आपको भी देखते हुए उतने मज़े आए. प्लीज़ देखें 28 तारीख को नेटफ्लिक्स पर.
That wasn't hard.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
See, you've done this
she
before.
said the keyword ना, हिंदी में बोलो. और तब तक मैंने बना लिया कहानी अपने दिमाग में.
Well, thank you all so much. All the best for the show.
Oh, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It's a
Thank you
pleasure to meet
so
you.
much.
Milky Mist Paneer. Milky Mist Paneer.
Velamal feels proud to honor the physical education teachers with 5 cars and 15 lakhs.
Supreme Mobiles and Supreme Super Apple Days. Get instant discount up to 15,000 on iPhone.